Hello, baseball fans. This is the Baseball Show with James Scott. Typically, my uncle's here reading us questions, but today he's not in town. We will also be covering today the Toronto Blue Jays. I'll start off by talking about the Blue Jays pitching. As far as pitching goes for Toronto Blue Jays, the big two guys that they're going to be relying on for the next year or two are Ricky Romero and Brandon Morrow. Ramiro was drafted by the Blue Jays a few drafts ago, right before Troy Tulowitzki, the superstar shortstop for the Rockies, was taken. And because Tulowitzki turned out to be arguably the best player in Major League Baseball, Toronto fans weren't so happy about their team drafting Ramiro, although now it's the other way around. Ricky Romero is not just a great young left-handed pitcher. He is a great young left-handed pitcher pitching well in the hardest division in baseball, the AL East. He's going to be their ace going forward. I expect even a little more improvement here or there. He's probably going to get his strikeout rate a little higher. If I could have any young pitcher in baseball who hadn't already established himself as an ace, Ramiro would be definitely up on those charts in the top 5 for me. Morrow, on the other hand, Brandon Morrow, used to be a pitcher for the Seattle Mariners. The Blue Jays ended up trading for him a few seasons back, and last year he ended up striking out the most number of batters per 9 innings of any pitcher who qualified in the major leagues, which is an extraordinary accomplishment, especially pitching in the AL East, as I said before. Morrow is fairly young still, so he's still developing into the kind of ace that people project him forward as being. He needs to tighten up his control here or there, but he is right on the cusp of becoming a number 1 starter. You could argue that based on the improvements that Ramiro and him are making currently, that they might actually reach that level of being number 1 starters around the same time. Now, to transition to their bullpen, also their pitching, they now finally, after years and years of not really having any definite closer to go to at the end of their games, have just traded for this offseason Sergio Santos of the White Sox. Santos strikes out a huge number of batters per 9 innings, something like 14 per 9. He does strike out a little more than usual. He does walk a little more than usual. But out of the bullpen, you don't really need to think about that amount that often. It's not really a relevant number because of the amount of innings he's actually going to be pitching, probably 60 innings. Walk totals can be a little higher in those terms. As far as who they had to give up, they had to give up prospect Henderson Alvarez, I believe it was, who now consequently is the White Sox top prospect. Despite giving up such a high-quality prospect, the amount in return that the Blue Jays got is worth probably twice the amount of the prospect that they got rid of. In addition, the Blue Jays already have a ridiculously deep system, arguably in the top 5 systems in the major leagues, so they can lose a little depth there. Talking about other prospects that you should be keeping an eye on, I'll give you one hitter, one pitcher. Hitter, Jake Marisnick. He was in A-Bowl last year, and scouts are already saying that he may be in the top 15 prospects in the major leagues in 1 or 2 years. The pitcher prospect that I've also been looking at intensely on the Blue Jays is Noah Syndergaard. He's a big flame-throwing right-hander, like 6'5", and he should be moving through their system very, very quickly. I believe he might have gotten a few starts at Double-A last year, but he's a definite pitcher to watch out for. He's got the build, he's got power stuff. He should be in the majors within 3 years. Moving on to their lineup, the Blue Jays actually have a very interesting situation. They say in baseball, pitching's never enough. Well, it's the same thing with catching prospects, because catchers are so volatile anyway. They always get injured. The Blue Jays actually have one catcher who's very young and very powerful at the minor league level, very young and very powerful at the major league level, J.P. Arencibia, who hits a ton of home runs and is an above-average defensive catcher for the Blue Jays in the major leagues right now. But then you look at their minor leagues, and in AAA, they arguably have the best catching prospect in Major League Baseball in Travis d'Arnaud. So they've got a very interesting problem going on right now. They could go for either of them. They could trade one away. They could just keep both of them and put one in a backup role and see who hits better, have them duel it out. If I were them, in all honesty, Arencibia is doing well at the big league level. You can afford to trade d'Arnaud. You can afford to trade him, and catchers, especially top catchers, always will demand a huge return. So you could increase your minor league system that way also, or add a few pieces here or there. The major league team. But the point is, they have this guy Arnaud in AAA, who's one of the best catching prospects out there, if not the best. Moving around their infield. At first base, they've been rotating a few guys in there, but they mostly have Adam Lind, who after having that amazing season 2 or 3 years back, where he had like 170 hits, 35 home runs, has kind of trailed off to be a below-average defensive, above-average offensive player. Not overly above average, but like a 25 homer guy, somebody who's solid in the lineup. Definitely somebody who can hold down their spot unless some star comes in to take it from them. He's a fairly good, player overall. At second base, they have Kelly Johnson, who they traded from Arizona for. He's a fairly good player. He's a doubles guy, a good solid defense. Not outstanding numbers, better than Lind's, especially when you're considering positions. It's a lot harder to find a good defensive second baseman than a good defensive first baseman. Shortstop, they have Yunel Escobar, very good offensive, very good defensive shortstop. He's and he seems like a clubhouse guy too. He wasn't so much when he was with Atlanta, but he seems to have turned into that kind of player now. At third base, they have prospect Brett Lowry, who I believe they also sometimes play at first and in the outfield. And in that case, Edwin Encarnacion shifts over to third. In the outfield, they have Jose Bautista, perhaps the best bat in the draft. Not in the draft. Best bat in baseball. He's hitting like 40 home runs a season. In center field, they have Colby Rasmus, former top prospect, and in left field, they have this guy, I believe his name's Eric Thames. I don't really like him. I don't think he's that good, in all honesty. I don't know why they're playing him there, but Toronto's a very smart and well-managed organization, so maybe he'll turn into something. And going forward, if you're going to watch one player in their minor league or major league organization, I'm going to name somebody who none of you guys think I'll name. All of you guys probably think I would name Jose Bautista. I want you guys to watch Anthony Gose. He's playing in their minor leagues, and as far as I've heard from literally every single scout out there, in addition to Mike Newman of Fangraphs.com, which is a baseball website you should probably check out if you're listening to this show. He's the most natural, talented athlete they've ever seen. He's got all 5 tools, but overall, like the most talented athlete that these guys have seen, it's him. It's Anthony Gose. We just need to see if he can, round out and polish his tools enough so he can start hitting and eventually advance to the major league level. As always, this is James Scott, and this is the Baseball Show. I'll talk to you guys in a few days.